And in pharmacy, it's not just about growing business, it's about going after profitable business.
Right. It's changed a lot.
That's what's very different from so many industries. I mean, I've sold pharmacies well over $10 million in sales. Easily doing over $10 million in sales. Welcome back to the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast, where we delve into discussions on pharmacy business, best practices, and trends, all while enjoying a rockin' good time with our guests. Get ready to rock out with some incredible knowledge, entertainment, and inspiration. I'm your host, Dr. Steve Rodriguez, pharmacist, certified merger and acquisition advisor, and full-time rocker. Thank you all for being here today. Remember, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to rock that like button. Today's guest is a pharmacy rock star changing the independent pharmacy space through technology. He is a pharmacist and multi-store owner with 7 pharmacies of his own. He is the founder of Drugstore to Door, a technology-based platform benefiting both patients and currently over 500 pharmacies, and is on track to hit 1,000 pharmacies by the end of this year. He is a leader and a rock star in the world of pharmacy. Ladies and gentlemen, I am happy to introduce to you on the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast, AJ Asgari. AJ, hey man, thank you so much for joining me on the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast, man. It's such a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, I'm super glad to be here. This will be fun.
Before we get started, I think we just need to go back and tell everybody how we met. The story of AJ, the pharmacy guy, and I was like, wait a minute, but I want to be the pharmacy guy. I was at a 10X conference, and I was talking to Jared and about what I do, about my pharmacy brokerage business. And then he immediately says, hey, you need to talk to AJ. AJ's the pharmacy guy. I'm like, wait a minute. What do you mean AJ, the pharmacy guy? I want to be the pharmacy guy. But either way, I'm like, well, this pharmacy guy needs to connect with that pharmacy guy. So here we are, and just, I'm really glad that Jared put us together, man, because you are just a wealth of knowledge, and you're such an experienced entrepreneur, and you're just kicking ass in the pharmacy space, man. And so I'm just glad to be a part of your network. So thanks again, man, for joining me on the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast.
You don't blow too much smoke right now, Steve. Don't blow too much smoke. But yeah, I remember it. I remember it well. Got a text message with you guys' picture, a little selfie out there. And so I was like, man, who in the world is this dude? But yeah, we've stayed connected since then. And that's we're going on a couple of years at this point now, huh?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And that awesome network that you and I met through, dang, that is just an awesome network.
Yeah, there's a lot of people doing a lot of cool things. I hope pharmacy adopts more of that as well. It could do a lot for the space.
Right. Well, hey man, let's get right into this, AJ. You know what? Why don't you tell my audience a little bit about yourself? What's your story? How did Drugstore to Door come about?
Yeah, let me try to do the hyper short version here. Born and raised Norman, Oklahoma, first pharmacist in the family. Had no idea what the heck I was getting into. Just got into it because I loved entrepreneurship. Long story of how somebody got me into it, but regardless, I end up in pharmacy knowing that I want to own. I really want to get into, at the time, thinking I want to get into multiple store ownership. I thought, man, how can I go 100 pharmacies, 200 pharmacies? And started down that road, eventually acquiring something like 12 or 13 or 14. I don't remember the exact number. Sold some of those off. I still own a decent chunk of pharmacies. But man, when you get so deep into this space, then you start to identify all the other problems. It's like, what am I struggling with? And so Drugstore to Door was just one of those problems that bubbled up was, man, I have no digital presence, and everybody who's out here who's providing me options for a digital presence, just not cutting it, right? My own marketers in-house, all that stuff, we just weren't cutting it. So finally I decided, if we're going to solve it, let's just solve it across the industry, and let's make independent pharmacies super accessible, and let's just go give them a bunch of tools that majority couldn't afford to take on themselves, and let's just do it at scale. And man, has my hair gone gray since I started that process. And so I've just been jamming, but we love it. It's take the bumps and the bruises. Technology is a complicated space, but man, it's great now. When I'm done with the pharmacy, they got more horsepower than a CVS.com, Walgreens.com, and we're just getting warmed up. We got a long way to go, but I feel good about where we are at this point. So,
wow, yeah, that rocks, dude. That rocks. That is so awesome. That's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen in the independent pharmacy space is the improper utilization of technology. And here you are, you created this massive platform. I mean, the way I understand it, it's kind of like an Amazon for independent pharmacies. Am I correct?
yeah, I mean, Amazon's got a few trillion more than I do to play with, but as far as the infrastructure goes, the setup goes, it's taking an independent pharmacy and taking all of the things you can do when you walk into that independent pharmacy and literally digitizing that whole experience so that when a customer walks into your facility online, they can buy products from you, they can buy prescriptions from you, they can book services with you. You don't close, right? You don't actually close at 6 o'clock in the afternoon. You're staying open 24/7. You're giving customers the opportunity to actually understand what you have, what you can sell them, what they're able to get from you. And that's important for us. I mean, if you look at competition out there, I tell pharmacies now, I'm like, think about this. I mean, we're getting really close to that whole blockbuster Netflix, story. And we need to be really cautious about being sure we don't turn into blockbuster because Netflix is coming. And we've seen it happen. We watched it happen. We watched it go from Blockbuster to Redbox to Netflix. Redbox sat at the table, right? And Blockbuster said, "Oh, everyone wants to come into the store. Everyone likes that Friday night experience. Everyone wants to see our shiny faces and they love us." Until we're laying on the couch in our underwear going, I don't have to leave. I can DoorDash my hamburger here. I can click any video I want to watch and I can stay on my couch, right? And healthcare is not as fun as either of those. So I'm super dialed into making sure we take independent pharmacy for the ride and we don't miss it.
Yeah, no, that's great stuff there, AJ, because that whole blockbuster story, so many people, have kind of forgotten about it, but you and I, growing up, I mean, Blockbuster used to be the place. I mean, I remember I used to go there on Friday nights. They had popcorn, they had sodas, they had candy, they had the little memberships, and it is. I mean, they were on every single corner. In fact, I remember the day that they shut down. They have a big distribution warehouse here where I live, and I was at a restaurant, and I was sitting with the restaurant owner, and he was telling me, he said, "Yeah, Steve, that group back there, they were part of that Blockbuster layoff, and they were kind of drinking their sorrows away, just kind of having one last hoorah, man." And so I remember that, and at that time, I had just launched my pharmacy, and so yeah, that just really opened up my mind as to, hey, you got to be mindful about the future. You got to be thinking ahead. You got to have a long-term strategy because what you do today, it may not work tomorrow.
Yeah, and we're the issue is, Steve, is the future is now. I mean, the future is now. It's not even like this thing that we're waiting on anymore. It's moving under our feet so fast. You're going to look up and go, "Holy cow!" I mean, with what's going on with AI and uh, you know, we were just talking about the Elon Musks of the world. I mean, there is so much coming together from robotics to AI to access to internet to all of it. It's going to be like this. So we look up and holy cow, everything's going to be changed.
No, absolutely. And that's one of the frustrations that I see, whenever I go to list a store and, I provide what's called a business disclosure survey. And I just ask the owners, I got to get, a history of the store, a understanding of the operation. And you see these guys that they don't use an IVR system. They don't use a point of sale. A lot of them don't even have a website. Just these basic, technology necessities, I mean, at this point, they're necessities, it's not an option anymore. I mean, you've got to get digitized. You got to get online. You have to utilize technology in your business if you want to stay relevant and stay profitable. So many people, it just kills me to see these pharmacies close down. I see the stuff on LinkedIn. I see the stuff online. And, I just can't help but wonder, I mean, I don't think that had to happen. And I bet if I was able to speak to those owners and kind of do a survey of the business, I bet a lot of them, you know, they probably didn't have a website. They weren't on social media. They weren't utilizing these platforms like yours. Okay, utilizing this technology that could help grow their business. And in pharmacy, it's not just about growing business; it's about going after profitable business.
Right. It's
I
changed
mean,
a lot. Yeah.
that's what's very different from so many industries. I mean, I've sold pharmacies doing well over $10 million in sales, easily doing over $10 million in sales, but they were still losing money.
Yep.
They were
Yeah.
they were still losing money because they weren't watching their cash flow. They weren't watching their margins. They weren't managing their operational costs. All those things. And so yeah, you're generating all this revenue, but you and I both know that revenue doesn't necessarily equate to profitability when it comes to the world of pharmacy.
No, not at all. This is the one industry that, the whole revenue is vanity line is can't be further from the oh, how can you say it? People think, in other industries where your margin is large and what hits the net line is solid, that revenue is kind of this flashy, man, I do 5 million, I do 10 million, I do 20 million. And 10 years ago or 15 years ago, whenever I got into pharmacy, uh, really you could. Like if someone had a pulse and they were breathing, they were a qualified customer, because you knew you could make money some way, shape, or form. And in 15 short years, it has gotten to the point where you have to evaluate not even just each person that walks in the door, you have to evaluate the plan, the product mix, the drugs, all of it, to the point that if you're strictly sticking to PBM style revenue, it's a very hard business to be in today. And looking at alternative revenue streams with real margin that you control, where someone else doesn't dictate those values, is absolute necessity at this point. Absolute necessity.
No, you're absolutely right, man. I totally agree with you 100%. So, listening to you, you're kind of leading me into my next question here of, talking about profitability and talking about sales. And one thing that we're not taught in pharmacy school is sales and marketing. And so I think sales and marketing are critical. Some of my guests on the show I've asked, they say the word critical. How important do you believe sales and marketing are to an independent pharmacy owner?
Yeah, I mean, and I'll even take the lick as an owner. When I got in, like I said, people walking in the door, pulse, breathing, good to go. So I didn't put a lot of stake in sales and marketing in the beginning because I really didn't have to, and I could run really profitable businesses. And when you watch those kind of collide as you're not doing that, and then the style of business changes on you all of a sudden, then you go, oh crap, I got to figure some stuff out, right? And that's really what led to the drugstore to door side. I started bringing marketers in, started bringing salespeople in, started looking at how effective our interactions with our customers. Can they really give us their money when they want to give us their money? And what are we doing to compel them to give us their money, right? So critical is a key word for what you need to be thinking whenever you're thinking sales and marketing. There's no question. And I think the other thing you have to pull into that is we are very good at being okay at everything versus being really good at something. And the more focused we can get at being really good at something and then going all in on the sales and marketing for that something or those two somethings is far more effective than trying to do it in general, right? And if you want to talk about people who've slapped us multiple times, I mean, look at Roman or Hims or any of these. They come in and go, look at these silly pharmacists selling everything, under the sun. I'm going to go take the blue pill that gets people up in the morning, right? Or the evening, or however you want to look at that. And they take, ED drugs and go so narrow on two or three items and build a massive company off of three pills that sit on our back shelf all day, every day. Right. So it's crazy. But yeah, it's absolutely critical.
used a word that it's really hit home for me lately, and you used the word focused. I was watching a podcast, or I read an article somewhere, and it was about Bill Gates and Warren Buffett. They were hanging out. I think they were on a private jet going to a meeting somewhere, and they had someone there interviewing them, and this person asked them, "If I own a business, what's the most important thing?"
Yeah.
To basically to running a business, something along those lines. They both looked at each other. They looked at him, and they said, "Focus. Get focused." And basically, it's going on what you're saying. You can't be all things to all people.
Hmm.
You need to focus, dial in on what you are, and get great at it. Get awesome at it. Rock it out, man. I mean, just go all in.
Yeah.
Because they both said that they've tried that. They've tried to be all things to all people. It didn't work. But now look at it.
Right.
It's Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. I mean, I think those guys have figured it out. So when they say get focused, I believe them.
Absolutely. I think the thing pharmacy's done really well is, the other part of the equation is consistency. And I'd say with all the pharmacists I talk to and all the pharmacies we work with, they're consistent, man. They got that side of the equation nailed, which is a big chunk of the battle. So it's getting back on this other side with some innovation, some focus, and some other pieces where we can all take what most people lack, which is that showing up day in and day out when it sucks, when it's solid, when you're killing it, when you're not. Like most people fail out there. But the interesting thing about the breed of pharmacy, man, is they don't fail out there. Like they show up until the white flag is, in the yard and the for sale sign or the closures on the door. They don't not show up. And so it's just this other side, and whatever combination that side is, that's the difference maker. I believe it firmly.
No, you're absolutely right. No, I see that on a day-to-day basis, in what I do. I've got a guy right now. He's 82 years old, owns a store, multiple health problems, and the guy's still showing up every day. I mean, he just wants to fill prescriptions, at the counter and be there for his patients. And I'm like, dude, come on, man. I mean, let's get you paid, man. Let's get you paid. Let's pass this legacy. Let's pass this torch on to somebody else. But you're right about that. These guys, they continue to show up almost to a fault. So besides technology, what do you think are some of the most difficult challenges in the independent pharmacy space?
Man, you're forced to really run a business. And so I'm involved in a lot of different businesses. By no means am I the expert, but I've definitely made plenty of mistakes to know like, hey, the fire's hot, don't touch here, don't touch there, certain areas like that. In pharmacy, we're a breed of people who wants to help everybody. Like we do. And I struggle with this with my own pharmacist is turning somebody away is incredibly difficult. But the circumstances of the market we're in versus the circumstances of that consumer or that patient are two whole different things. And getting pharmacies to understand the business side, right, and really focus on the business side, it's a challenging place. Not only are we told, who we can sell to, what we can sell, we're told how much we can sell it for, regardless of how we're buying it. In most cases, we're told how we're going to buy it, how much of it we have to buy. Like we are controlled on the front side, the back side, the middle, underneath, on top. Like if you're strapped to commercial and third party insurance claims as your driver, you're in that bucket. So if you're going to do that, then you got to move those chess pieces really strategically to stay viable and then not cross any lines from legality. So it's a very complicated space now. It's not simple anymore at all. There's already enough complexity just being a pharmacist, not making mistakes, being expected to be 100% accurate 100% of the time from a health and wellness perspective. Then you go take all of this that you're just compounding the amount of stress, the things you have to look through. So now you're not just looking at a patient going, hey, are there any interactions? Is this appropriate dose for the indication? Does all this stuff make sense? Then you're going, okay, pause. Now let me go over here. How much money am I losing? Am I making money? Can I fill all of these prescriptions? Can I acquire these prescriptions for the right cost? So you've got to do all of this and still hit that McDonald's checkout window in 2.3 seconds, or you have a pissed off customer right? So the dynamic has gotten really bad in that regard. And so, man, when I think about the challenge, I just think, man, what did we get ourselves into? And how do we start to get out of this in some form or fashion? And that's where I go back to the auxiliary cells around the traffic. And what can you do, whether it's services or products or whatever it might be? Because if you take other industry or other business, there's a lot of these pharmacies that have a ton of foot traffic, but you're only
Hmm.
capturing about that much of the customer's wallet. And I'm just, for those
Right.
listening, it's a tiny
Right.
sliver, right?
Hmm.
And so we are not actually capturing, like, drop a GNC in, drop a Vitamin World in, drop any other business in that's all cash, and they're going to go, oh, please get 200 people to walk through my door a day and watch what I do, right? And
Yep.
that's where
Yep.
we got to figure some things out as
Absolutely.
independent
But
pharmacy owners.
but it's all going back, AJ. Everything that you're saying is all tying back to the same thing that I brought up earlier. Sales and marketing, man. Sales and marketing. You have all these customers coming in there. Okay. I mean, you know this. Customer comes into your pharmacy every single month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know they buy toilet paper. You know they buy toothpaste. You know they buy all of these other things, but they don't buy them at your store.
Mm-hmm.
Why not? I mean, how many times has the pharmacist or one of the pharmacy staff members actually tried to show the customer, hey, you know what? We got this stuff too. You
Yeah.
know, maybe it's 50 cents more expensive, than Target or Walmart or whatever. Because I know these chain stores, their OTCs are not that much cheaper, than
No.
an independent. I mean, I've
Right.
seen that. And so so everything just goes back to the sales and marketing. If these owners could just improve upon that, have a better understanding of, that's why counseling is so important. I mean, in Texas, we're required to counsel,
Absolutely.
legally by law, we're supposed to counsel on every new prescription. But from a business standpoint, why wouldn't you want to counsel them? That's your opportunity to promote your business, to solidify that relationship, to where when you have that customer, when you have that family, you're making money on that family, because you and I both know, let's say you're losing money on a script and you're like, oh man, I can't fill that script. Well, you run the risk. You might not just lose that script. You might lose their other 5 scripts, and then you might lose dad's business, and then you're going to lose the 3 kids' business, and then you're going to lose grandma's. I mean that effect just keeps going and going. So that's where, going back to the sales and marketing thing is, as pharmacists, you said we're healthcare providers. We want to take care of patients, and we don't want to sell them. And so many pharmacists, they think that, they're selling people. No, you are helping them, offering them, those supplements, for, nutrient depletion, telling them, hey, you know what, we can check your blood pressure. We can check your cholesterol. You know what? Hey, we can provide these immunizations for you. You're not selling them. You are providing a valuable, needed service. And COVID just completely solidified for pharmacy that pharmacists, we are the most accessible healthcare provider in the healthcare system.
Well, and this is where I get frustrated with sales. For some reason, sales gets equated to the guy with the greased back hair at the car lot who knows that the car just got out of a flood, that just got it to start, and he's going to sell you that thing and pretend it's pristine, right? Like that's a lot. People hear sales and they think grimy. Same thing like with money. Like, for some reason, to make money makes you a bad person, and that's taboo. If From my vantage point, you got to get rid of both of those delusions or misconceptions, or however you want to label them. You have to remove those completely. Because if you're a faithful person, right? If you believe in God, it is your objective to let other people see that shine through you, right? Whatever it might be. If you truly believe in something, if you found something that you thought would make you live 10 years longer, you would talk about it to every person you came across, right? You would be adamant. If you found something that changed your life, you would make it your life's work to change other people's lives. Like, that's sales. Everything we do is sales. And so you have to get really comfortable knowing, like, if you're the expert in the space and you believe in whatever it is that you're doing, right? I.e., drugstore to door and helping independent pharmacy. I don't I listen to all the feedback that comes my way. I take the stuff that's productive. I let the stuff go that's doesn't make sense. People don't understand. I take the stuff that we should be doing and I do it. But I'm so hell bent on what I know we need and what we need to be doing and what I've seen happen for stores that I sell the you know what out of that every single chance I get, right? And if I happen to make money in the process, guess what? I deserve it. I take time away from my family. I hop on flights. I go on airplanes. I run shows. I take stresses on. I don't sleep at night. I take on so much risk that at the end of the day, I need to make some money, right? So that's what we need pharmacists, and owners to understand is it's okay to sell. It's okay to make money. You should be doing both because if you're effectively getting your message across and you're focused on the right pieces, you deserve it. Like you deserve it.
Absolutely, and I've had this conversation with other guests on my show, and we talk about you got to take care of yourself first. I mean, whenever you're in business, when you're a pharmacy owner, you're a business person first, because if you're not around, your business is not around. If that business is around, it's not going to provide for your family, those employees, for that community. So it's very, very important that you got to understand that yes, you are a business person. You have to make money, and you're right. For whatever reason, as pharmacists, it was just kind of instilled in our culture that making money is a bad thing. Yeah, it's taboo. It's just, you shouldn't do that. You should be here for the patient, which we should. I mean, and we are. But but it takes money to take care of those patients, to take care of that community. And it's like you said, you know you're investing in drugstore to door. I mean, you're investing a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of your energy and resources. Yeah, so absolutely, you need to make money, but also you are solving a problem. You are meeting a need that is needed in the independent pharmacy space. And anything.
Yeah, man, and every pharmacy should. And you talk about like my voice went up 10 octaves on that. I'm like, I'm passionate about like get in there, find ways, and feel good about making money because you're doing the right thing and taking care of people. Feel good about it.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. That's why whenever I call people, I'm calling on guys that are, you know, 70 plus, and, the average lifespan, according to the CDC for an American is 75 years old. So I look at it as when I see somebody who's 70 and they're still working the case at their pharmacy, I'm like, I get cussed at, yelled at, told all kinds of things. Don't ever call my store again. You're wasting my time. I'm never going to sell and this and that. I mean, I get called everything under the book, but I'm like, look, man, I am passionate about what I do. I mean, and when I see these stories of these pharmacies closing down, when I see these, hear these stories of an actual owner that had a heart attack and died at the counter. I mean, you've heard those stories. We've all heard those stories, those bad horror stories. I'm like, that didn't have to happen, and I'm like, man, I got to do more. And that's why with my brokerage, that's kind of like my message right now. Don't wait until it's too late. I mean, you're going to see that on my marketing, on my website, buysellx.com. I mean, I got all those messages in there just telling these guys, hey, look, I know a lot of people don't like to think about that. They don't want to think about the exit for whatever reason. But let me ask you this. How important is an exit strategy for a pharmacy or any business for that matter?
Yeah, this is another funny one because we get so attached to things that they're very hard to let go. We take it personal. We start to put a lot of emotion in it. Evaluating a business for exit is probably one of the best exercises you can do because you're going to punch holes. You're going to bring all the ugly out. because then you're going to realize, okay, I'm not as valuable as I thought I was, or maybe I'm more valuable than I thought I was. But you're going to start to expose weaknesses in your own. Even if you're not ready to sell, you should be running through exit strategies and going, okay, if I were to sell today, am I cleaned up? Are my books clean? Do I understand my profit and loss statements? Do I know how profitable I am? Am I playing tax, strategy? I'll be careful what I word here. Am I running tax strategy in my business? Am I whatever it is that you're doing, then you really understand, okay, today, if I continue this tax strategy and I continue this level of business and I go to market, here's how I present to a seller, to a buyer, me as a seller to a buyer. If I want to get myself in shape, I might need 3 years for that to come. So to your point, I may not be ready at 60, but at 65, I'm going to be ready. So at 62, there are some things I need to start doing. And I need to call somebody like you who's been through it multiple times and say, hey, Steve, I'm not selling today, but I need a little coaching to prepare my business to be ready for market in the next 24 to 36 months. And I know I can take it from, a 2 times EBITDA sell to a 4 times. And I need some strategy here on what I can do to increase margins before I go let this go to the next person, right? Hey, you got too many employees, you're buying too much drug, like pull some stuff off the shelf. There's a lot of things you can start to do that makes a business look better and then run a track record for a year or two. So if that doesn't get the point across about how important it is to understand all strategy, including exit strategy, it's just good exercise for running a good business, period. Even if you're 20 years from selling, run an exit strategy. What does it look like? Where are you at today? Where do you want to go? Connect those two lines and figure out what things are going to happen in the middle to actually make that connection.
Yeah, yeah, no, absolutely. You're spot on, man. Because when I sold my store, I wasn't looking to sell. I wasn't looking to sell my store. I had my store for 12 years. I was not looking to sell, but an opportunity came along, and man, I mean, it was a great exit for me. But here's what gets me, and it really just it boils my blood, AJ, because I'm like, man, if I knew then what I know now, I
Hmm.
mean, I did very well. I exited very well. I mean, it's a 10x multiple exit, and I'm
That's
very proud
awesome.
of that. And and
Yeah,
and and I
you
did
should
that on
be.
my own.
Yeah.
I did that on,
Yeah.
thank you so much for that. I did that on my own. But if I knew then, I mean, just half the stuff that I've learned now when it comes to sales, marketing, valuations, understanding timing. I mean, I didn't have an exit strategy at the time, because I wasn't looking to sell. I mean, I thought I was going to keep my pharmacy forever, just like most owners do. But man, that's why I'm so passionate about getting valuations done for these pharmacy owners. I mean, I've got valuation packages. I got, exit strategy planning packages that we offer. And then, of course, we'll broker the deal for them. But, one big thing, that misconception that I want to tell all pharmacy owners out there: if you want to maximize your strategy, take yourself out of the business.
Yeah.
Let me say that again. If you want to maximize your exit, that business needs to be able to run without you in it. That's how you maximize it. And so many owners think that, oh man, I'm the best independent pharmacy owner in the world. This thing is worth a gazillion dollars because of me. I'm like, no, you are hurting the valuation on that business. You got to take yourself out of it.
Right. Yeah, it's key, man. And sometimes the business decisions aren't easy. I mean, I chatted with you already about a store I closed down, just because it wasn't worth the time, the risk, the profitability wasn't there, the things that I need for my time and energy to be spent. And I would say we're really keen on what we're doing and how we run and how we operate and efficiencies and all those things. And the dynamic for the amount of energy to keep a particular store moving in a certain market with all of the other things going on, when you sit and you actually think about exit and you think about where you're spending your resources and where you can grow and where you can increase profitability, for me, it was shutting a store down. Like, there's no question I'm going to go shut this store down because I can redirect a lot of energy over here and make 10 times more than I'd make trying to pedal this thing in this particular direction. Right? And so sometimes the decisions aren't just linear and easy, and they're hard, and you got to make hard ones and adjust to what the market's doing to you.
What would you like to see in pharmacy, AJ, in the next 5 to 10 years? Like, where do you see pharmacy going? What would you like to see?
Yeah, I feel like we're going to see kind of a turn, some kind of a turn. And I don't know if the turn is like PBM reform and they actually get put in a place where all things are profitable again and we're running fair business. I don't know if
Mhm.
that's the turn. Um, I hope that we see some breathing room in that regard. What I would like to see is a modernization of pharmacy, specifically independent pharmacy, a real modernization. And I would like to see things like, what the Mark Cubans of the world are doing with exposure to the complexities of the industry that shouldn't be as complex as they are. I mean, they're complex for a reason. There's a lot of smoke and mirrors in the industry. Bringing simplicity back to this market so that it's that consumers, that the end person paying the bill, footing the bill, right? Us as taxpayers, the actual person who is sick paying the premium. Um, everybody has some real visibility into their healthcare, right? And the cost of their healthcare. And I think we can be on the forefront of it because I tell our patients all the time, we are the closest person to you in this game. Okay. And it's a game. We are the closest person to you. And what I mean by that is we experience the cost, the fluctuation, the drugs being too expensive, the insurance is not reimbursing correctly, the all of the things that get passed to that patient for shortcomings. That independent pharmacy is right there with you because we're getting squeezed, if not harder in some instances from a financial perspective and the ability to do our job effectively because the battlefield is so lopsided that if we could just expose this to the point that that changes, I would be very happy. This is a fun industry to compete in if you actually can compete. But when your competition owns the entities that pay you, the competition is a lot different. You're not going in a ring, heavyweight boxer to heavyweight boxer. You got a 4-year-old getting in with a gorilla and hoping to God the 4-year-old can run fast enough, to dodge what the gorilla is doing. I mean, it's it's terrible. I hate to see what I'm seeing in the industry. I think there are plenty of ways to make money. I think there's plenty of ways to thrive in it. But it just sucks at the end of the day when it goes to the patient. And we're on that same line. Like we are right there with that patient. And so I just hope to see a dynamic change completely where we get reimbursed fairly and we're paid appropriately for what we do and let us innovate, let us grow, let us take care of people, let us serve the areas where big pharma doesn't make money, right? And we can go in and we can service those areas, in that way, or big pharmacies, I should say, or big chains. So it's loaded, Steve. There are a million things I'd love to see, but the overarching is just let's clean up some of the BS that's going on.
Yeah, but I just appreciate you, with what you're doing with the drugstore to door. You use the word innovation. I mean, that's what you're doing. You're innovating. You're creating a platform to help independent pharmacies compete. With that gorilla. And just modernize independent pharmacy to where yeah, these guys can still be very successful and have a nice living, taking care of their communities, taking care of these patients, their families, doing what they love to do the most, which is provide patient care. So the name of my podcast is the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast, AJ. So when you think of the word rock star, like a rock star in business, like who do you think of? Like what comes to mind for you? Like what does that mean to you?
Oh man. So in business, that's particular. So when I think business, I think about guys who just really changed the world, the way we the way we live. And so you include the Elon Musks and the Jeff Bezos and the Warren Buffetts you talked about and the Bill Gates and these people revolutionize the way we wake up and do life, right?
Right.
And to me, those are rock stars because that you're coming from an idea and you're going into something that's so dark and so unclear and you're going to navigate and create a path. And the vision is so clear in your brain, regardless of all the things that tell you you can't. And they go and they do, right? And they create, and it's impossible until it's not. But I think from a rock star perspective, it could be any realm, right? But in
Mm-hmm.
business, that's where my mind goes, is those who are actually, I walk through an airport, Steve, and I see for Uber and Lyft go this way. I mean, those are companies that disrupted
Mm-hmm.
how you interact when you're in an airport.
Right.
I mean, they had to create sections to accommodate, right? So what happens
Mm-hmm.
when robo taxis show up? What happened? Like, we're
Mm-hmm.
in this really cool era that I'm super glad to be alive in, because we're just watching this rapid shift,
Right.
and it's terrifying, but it's also like, holy crap, man. I've lived through Atari and getting up and changing the channels for my dad
Yeah.
to where we are today. And if I'm
Right.
lucky enough to live another 40 years, I could possibly live 200. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right. And
Right.
so it's
Right.
a really cool time, I think, just to be alive. So there's a ton of rock stars.
Yeah. Yeah. No, those guys are definitely rock stars, man. Those guys are definitely rock stars. Do you do you work with any rock stars in the pharmacy space?
And I try to surround myself with rock stars in their own right. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
we tend to think, like I listed some of those names, those people are who they are because of the people who are around them as well. It's not one single person, it's a combination of multiple people. And I think everyone has that rock star something. And it doesn't mean they all use it. Now, sometimes we remove people from our lives because they have the ability, they just don't have the work ethic to do something with it. And you got to watch out for those. But otherwise, man, I couldn't even start to list people, just because everyone in their own right does something in their space. And I mean, they rock out at it. And the more of those people you can bring around you, with humility, and learn from, and work with, we're not competition to one another. We really are not. Even when you're across the street from one another, you're really not. And when you start to battle things together and bring people in to close gaps that are your weakness, you don't have to be great at everything. That's pretty hard to do. And so surround yourself with people that plug the holes you don't. And the thing that you're awesome at, throw everything you got at it, right? And you will attract the others who help kind of spearhead everything else that's going on. And so I just live by that, and just try to continue to add people who make it look like I'm more capable than I probably am, and then hope that I inject value both ways.
Man, that's awesome, man. That totally rocks right there, AJ. Man, that's awesome. Well, so what can I do to help you, AJ? Like what can the Pharmacy Rockstar podcast do to help you in drugstore to door? What
Man,
can I do for you?
just being known out in the space. We're pounding the pavement. We're on airplanes constantly. If I could give this away for free and my money tree shook like that, I would give it to every independent pharmacy. I would implement it for them. I would bring every single one of them up to speed. So as much awareness as we can get, we want to help and bring on as many as we possibly can. And my goal has been, how do we do this cheaper and cheaper, faster and faster, and more effective? And we have been able to do that as we grow and continue to help independent pharmacies. And so we want to be a name that has something to do with independent pharmacy thriving. And we don't expect to be the end all be all, but we definitely want to be a part of that conversation.
Nice, nice. How can my audience get in touch with you? Get in touch with your group, your
Yeah,
organization?
drugstore2door.com. It's on my shirt. It's on my hat. My wife is like, please stop. Do you own anything else? At this point, this is, I'm
I
constantly
have
in the
heard that
gear, the
multiple
gym.
times.
Yeah.
I have heard
Uh,
that from
I
multiple
am
times
slowly
from my
running out of all my normal clothes. This is all I wear. So, drugstore2door.com is an easy place. You can book a demo directly with me. I have a personal site. You can find me on social by just looking my name up, all over the place. But as a colleague in the industry, I don't care if drugstore to door is what you're after or not. If you just want to reach out to talk shop, that's what I'm here for. Like, I'm happy to have those conversations, and make myself pretty available.
Okay, nice, nice. All right. Well, before I let you go, I got to ask you, Who's your favorite musical rock star?
Oh man, that's another loaded one. It's like the business one, Steve. So
come on, man. Come on. You got to tell me your story. Come on, let's
yeah,
go.
if I think about, and again, this just goes to like, who are the people that change the dynamic, like who changed the rules, who made things. So when you start going down that road and think about people who pushed the limits, whether I listen to them or not, I have tremendous like rock star value that I give them, from
Yeah.
the Beatles to the Michael Jacksons to the Madonnas to
Yeah.
now you got Taylor Swift to, I
Yeah.
mean, and whether they're my flavor of music or not doesn't really matter. These are people who are literally changing the way in which the world takes in, emotion and feeling, and the course of their day is dictated by what song turned on that morning, right? What was the first thing on your playlist, could really set the pace for the day. So those are the ones I think, just getting out there and pushing the envelope to say, hey, this is what can be done when you have a talent, you focus, you go all in, and you don't let up. Boom. I mean, everything we talked about here, that's the epitome of Rockstar.
Man, awesome. Well, AJ, thank you so much for being on the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast. I greatly appreciate you being here. I mean, you've been a great colleague, a great friend, man, and you're just a brilliant mind, man. I mean, I love your concept of drugstore to door. Man, I just appreciate everything that you're doing for the independent pharmacy space. So thank you so much for that.
Hey, well, thanks for having me. I'm humbled to even be on your radar, and humbled to have support from independent pharmacy, and we'll continue to jam to do as much as we possibly can for this industry.
Well, man, buddy, you've got my contact info. You holler at me anytime. So everyone, please follow AJ at drugstoretodor.com. Please like, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment on this show. Please do. I would love to hear what you have to say. AJ, again, buddy, thank you so much for joining us on the Pharmacy Rockstar Podcast. Yes, sir. Thank you.